At this time, Dr. Ross, I'll turn it over to you for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board and our community. We are so proud of our wrestling programs, and want to welcome to the executive staff table Dr. Gerald Gary, formerly of Dutch Fork High School. Missed an opportunity to get recognized, so we appreciate Reed stepping in to come in and take his first championship pin. So we're very proud of that. But again, thank you so much for joining our executive team. And also, I guess we have to thank Ms. Tucker for the Chapin recognition, because when she became CFO, there was a vacancy, Dr. Turner, for a new teacher at Chapin Middle School, and that's how we got Coach Marshall. So take a bow, you can get a pin for that recognition as well. But again, we ask three critical questions each and every day. Why are we here? How do we accomplish that why, and then what are our outcomes? Our vision is that we love and grow our students. Our mission is that we're focused on the social emotional development and growth of our students. And then our outcomes are our strategic plan. These are our 24 strategies that are chasing 4 performance goals, all towards the objectives that we want to make sure every student feels loved in our schools and every student has demonstrated academic growth in our schools. Our feedback from the state is in our measurable assessment outcomes that sees us growing in areas, and the areas that we're not growing in, surrounding our continuous improvement process to ensure that we can meet the strategic plan of the state. By 2030, that 75% of students will be at or above grade level in measures. As we look at our measures, again, by state requirements, we are to do 3 summative assessments throughout the year. And so those are in the fall, the winter, and the spring. You see the fall, you see the winter data, and now students are in the window of the spring. As we continue to look through this, we're not only looking at the performance of our areas of growth for secondary, but also, because of Act 114, the performance of our 3rd graders. We're also looking at the largest indicator of performance for high schools, which is the graduation rate. And so you can see, as we track this weekly, our goal is to identify the obstacles that stand in the way of each and every student until we meet our goal where 9 out of 10 students are graduating on time within 4 years of entering the 9th grade. As we do this, our general budget is in line to support these aims and initiatives. And so I want to just go over the general budget timeline. This has already begun, but as we look at our general budget, we're looking at 3 areas that we want to ensure are in position. That's the revenue for the general operating fund, where 64% of our funds are coming from the state. So being informed of how the state will provide its allocations is important. Our local, and that's what's our operation millage, and then the grants that we receive. We're looking at our expenses. And so looking at priorities of the administration, the board, our community advisories, our faculty advisories, will give us an idea of the expenses that we will incur this year, and then also the fund balance reserve. And so this is the equation that we manage through. We have a discussion on our reserve policy today. And so as we look through for March, at our next meeting, we will review our strategic plan amendments. The administration looks at the data that we have done in terms of our continuous improvement. We look at our measurables, and then we will present at the March 24th meeting through Dr. Harris's office. We'll be looking in accountability at the strategic plan amendments that will be presented. Those amendments are to be adopted, will be discussed in March and adopted in April. We also bring to you the pre-approvals for reappointments in March. In April, we would like to have another budget discussion. This is where we take all the priorities from the surveys that you've done, for the information that we receive, and then put numbers behind those. So what does this mean, and give you some options so that we can make informed decisions. And by policy, have the first reading of the budget prepared for in May. We have 2 meetings in June, which will give us the opportunity to ensure that we had the second and final reading before the fiscal year ends. Strategic plan and our amendments in March, adopt those in April, along with the prioritization of the budget, along with our capital budget to be completed, and be in position for first reading by the first meeting in May. As we look at rezoning, we are hard at work in this process. Again, this is a huge task for the school district for moving from our current elementary zones into our new elementary zones, which will be in effect for July 1, 2026. Our goal is restructuring, especially the middle levels. That is an area that we feel that in School District 5 we can shore up as our middle school experience or intermediate experience, moving from the multiple transitions to fewer transitions, with all elementary schools going to pre-K to 5, all middle schools, now 5 middle schools, no more intermediates, going 6th, 7th, and 8th, and then our traditional high school structure. To get there, I think it's important for us as we plan not to put the cart in front of the horse. So I wanted to share the process it takes to get from this structure to this structure. And in doing so, we start with student enrollment. In Dr. Harris's department, we are of accountability, we've done a best case scenario of enrollment projections based on trends. He and his team have put together and finalizing student enrollment projections that look at those trends of where we would be in your new zone, plus looking at the trends from past choice decisions of parents. From that, we will tackle the structure of the grades, the movement in the attendance feeders, and that will determine the programs that we put at the different schools. From there, we will look at staffing and what staff will be needed to ensure those programs work, to equipping those programs and the staff being involved in the equipment that's needed, and then finally occupancy. So this is the process that we're working through, just to give you an idea of how that will, how we will handle this in our planning process. Here are the dates for each of the meetings that we're having to discuss these. We call it our director's cut. All of the directors from each of the departments within the school district, the administrative departments, from operations, student services and planning, academics, finance, and human resources. All of those the directors come together and we tackle these 5 items. Tomorrow will be the first director's cut as we ensure that we're meeting the needs for structure. When you move from an intermediate to a middle school, or you're moving 5th grade into an elementary school, that structure may bring some programmatic and some instructional needs, and we want to make sure that everybody is hands on deck in ensuring that we have accomplished the structure correctly. Once the structure is in place on March 25th, we'll come back and we'll talk about programs. And this is huge: art programs, music programs, special education programs, OHI and health issues. We want to make sure all those programs are in place, academic programs. And so once we have the programs listed and they're in their right structures, then we will staff them based on staffing modeling. We'll handle that on April the 8th. Once the staff is in place, the staff drives what they need, equipment and supplies. And so on April the 22nd, We will handle ensuring that the equipment and supplies are in place, and then the occupancy plan. How do we move everyone there? So this is our very aggressive structure, so that gets us to May, that we're in position to have these questions answered. Why is May important? Well, May is when we ask the teachers to weigh in on where they would like to be when all of this is positioned. And so we are working to make sure that we get to this point in May. That's all of the meetings that lead up to it. So the administration is hard at work on putting all of the details in place so that May 25, after the contracts are signed, we're loading the preferences of the current staff on where they want to be. Once that is in place, we will take those survey results in June to do some predictions of where we will have our students and staff. July, August, and September is finalizing those plans. In October, we'll communicate out to the staff what we have as a result. November, the principals get their staff to, as they give us feedback. In December, we finalize that, and in January, all staff are notified of where they're going to be. So this is a very aggressive plan, but we feel like we can execute it. And so a lot of our attention and efforts are going to be on this budget and staffing calendar as we have. If preferences changes between now and then, between May and January, Human Resources has aligned this process with our regular transfer portal process. And so if their preferences have changed for any reasons, there's another opportunity to provide your preference with the regular internal transfer windows. So for families and communities to know that all teachers to be new to their site will be oriented by this time next year. They will be assigned in January and have their orientations at their new sites that as we provide their preferences in March of next year. And then by May of next year, all families will have had their opportunity to have orientations. And that way, before the summer ends, we are prepared for the transition and the rezoning to take effect in the start of school for the 2026 school year. We do that, we want to talk a little bit about classroom supports as our administrative priority. It was mentioned about the taking the opportunity to look at a task force of school districts that are showing promise, especially with poverty, and we have given the diverse needs that we have in our district, a great number of small teams of professional learning communities. And school districts are looking at districts like ours. I want to point attention to Anderson One. I'll give them a shout out at our meeting about their growth. Their poverty level is identical, or not identical, but in line with ours. And they're having great success and outcomes. And if you look at what do they credit for their rise in success, their ability to turn those red bars into blue bars, students not on grade level to students that are on grade level. It is the ability for the greatest ideas within the school to be shared amongst all teachers in the school. They call these professional learning communities. They are the first district certified professional learning community district in the state. We are a professional learning community district as well. And I asked Ms. McCaskill, to put it in a nutshell, what are professional learning communities trying to do? And these are the 4 questions that they are accomplishing. They immediately know what they want students to know and be able to do. They know how they will, if students learned the information or not, they know. They know how they respond when students that don't know the information. But most importantly, for the students who do, they know how to extend those students. We have set in School District 5 a district-wide expectation that all teachers need to know their standards and how to communicate I can statements to students and parents in a way that allows students to be able to know the next steps in learning. PLCs that are high performing are able to do that. One of our schools in our district we like to just highlight Spring Hill and their professional learning communities has been reviewed, has been highlighted by a lot of outside groups, and they're so aligned to the 4 questions that teachers grade other classrooms' assessments, and they can do that because of that alignment along the 4 questions. And so as we look in classroom supports, we're going to look at ways that we can support all schools and all teachers in doing this. So our goal is to move from this mass education system to an individualized learning system. The realities I've shared with the board last summer is it's becoming incredibly tough to make these transitions. This is a real classroom from last year. I'm using last year's data, but it doesn't change from our current reality. This is a real 8th grade class that was median poverty in our district, so it's not our worst case, not our best case, with 21 students in there and 8 different reading grade levels to serve. This becomes very challenging, and you can see the distribution of students along the curve. There's not a majority of students in any one of the bands. We asked our teachers, we spent a year with our teacher advisory asking them, how can we support you with these realities in the classroom? They told us 3 things. Acknowledge what we're going through. Acknowledge the contributions that we made. You know, if I go back, this is the end of the year, and 2 students are at 2nd grade reading level, but they all grew. So they come in at a 1st grade level, they grow to a 2nd grade level. That teacher has accomplished a lot, but those students won't show up in any achievement test. The teachers say, acknowledge those contributions. They also say we need quality time to reflect and plan on practice. They also say that we appreciate any supports that you can give us with these realities. And so I wanted to present an opportunity for supports for our school district and for our teachers. I believed, as I always believed, that the faculty needs a faculty. The faculty needs a faculty, and it may be tough to give over 1,400 teachers an instructional assistant. But imagine that every teacher had somebody, an instructional assistant, to develop tests based on state standards, to provide feedback to students based on individual performance, to generate worksheets for individual students, or write lesson plans and assessments, to produce informational text in multiple languages and multiple reading levels, to produce presentations based on I can statements, to make recommendations for IEP accommodations. Well, districts are using now generative AI to do this. And I wanted to speak to the board about an opportunity that we have where we may not be able to give every faculty member a faculty member, but we can give them a powerful tool. Why AI? It is upon us, it is being used very heavily. Just saw this chart that was presented to us, and it said it took 3.5 years for Netflix to reach 1 million users. It took ChatGPT 5 days. Students are using it, teachers are using it, parents are using it, and this is something that I think that we want to use in a safe and ethical way to support our teachers. So what does classroom supports with generative AI look like? I want us to go back to this example. I gave you reading levels. This is achievement. This is the reality that we're facing, not only just 3rd grades, but all of our grades. These are the classrooms that we see. In 1964 to I think 1979 in our school district, we had individually guided education. This was brought to my attention. We got the documents and we started to look over IGE, which is a very innovative instructional model in School District 5. And in this model, the teachers had the support of a unit leader who would help develop the lesson. And each teacher received an instructional assistant. The instructional assistant would look at the needs of the kids in the red band and move them to a teacher that would work with kids in the red band. Identify the students in the orange band and move them to a teacher that worked on the orange, so forth and so on. And students moved around based on their performances and their needs. And that was done by the instructional assistant. There was so much movement in this model that the buildings were built with no walls. So Chapin Elementary, Lee Park, Harbison West, all of those schools were built to allow this model to happen. And that was something very unique to us. And we've, now, can we do that today? No. But what we have found is that the instructional assistant in a lot of districts, and a safer use of this is with a program called Magic School AI. So we are going to clinic with Horry County, and Ms. McCaskill is leading a group that will, first they were going to travel to Horry County, but they said, well, it's digital, so they just work with them online. But there is a lot of work that Horry County has done with aligning the use of generative AI to the district's vision. And so she wasn't supposed to be on schedule today, but I asked Ms. Jenny Garris, our Director of Technology, if she would just come forward. We already have and are using the Magic School AI within our district. We are seeking the ability to use a site license that would give full access to it. But when people hear AI, they think about ethical use, data security. And so I wanted Ms. Garris to just kind of speak to what we have seen of this particular vendor.
Thank you. You may speak basically, mainly about the data privacy and security piece, Dr.
Yes,
Ross. So last spring, we became aware of Magic School AI, and through instruction and technology, collaboratively, we put this product through what we have our district vetting process, and it's a pretty thorough process. We have a whole lot of different viewpoints that go into it, but from the technology side, one of the pieces we look at is data privacy, data security, obviously. So I've got some things here. I'm going to read through some bullet points that as we went through this vetting process, it became clear that this product was designed for K-12, which many AI products aren't necessarily designed for K-12. So this really spoke to what we were looking for in something that understands what security and data privacy concerns we have when it comes to children. So there are several things I want to highlight from this, and one, they do not collect any personable identifiable information, PII, we always say. And they say in their, very clearly stated in their terms of service, their privacy policies, which are all reviewed very thoroughly, they don't collect it. This includes names, addresses, student IDs, any other details that could identify a student. They actually go one step further. If that type of information is submitted, so let's say a staff member submits that kind of information, uploads it, they actually monitor that, and if they see that that kind of information has been shared into their product, they will remove it immediately and then delete it to maintain that privacy. So that's very impressive and not something we see very often in products that we're vetting. Also, their data security measures, so we always look at companies and their breach protocols, what they do from their security standpoint. Again, they hit all of the marks that we put out for them. They do all processing within the United States, so data that does go in there, even if it's not PII, just as its information doesn't leave the United States. That's very important. They don't sell any of our data. There is a Magic Student component. If we use that, there are no advertisements or marketing that's put out there to students. That's very important as well. We also they share their incident protocols. So if they have a breach incident, what do they do? That was clearly defined in there. And they also are compliant with FERPA and COPPA. You've probably heard FERPA before, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. COPPA is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And it really targets and talks about children under the age of 13. So it really puts the onus on these product makers to create a product that helps protect kids. And so when they comply with those laws, that also tells us they've met the standard. And so as we went through Magic School AI from that vetting standpoint, not only did they meet our standards, but they really exceeded. So as we talked and I spoke with Dr. Ross, it's a product that I feel very comfortable that is made for K-12, and I think that's really important for us to think about when, as he said, AI is out there, our students are using it, our teachers are using it. This product really puts the guardrails and safety measures in place that I think are super important.
And I just I thought I was bringing back something innovative, and Ms. McCaskill and Ms. Garrett said very nicely, we're already in it, we're using this, but we're using the free version. And so a lot of the things that are created can't be saved and stored, and it doesn't give us access to the full suite. So we want to let Ms. McCaskill lead the suite of the team that's going down to review their implementation. Ms. Garris will look at it on the operational side, and then look to include this resource as an instructional support within the budget. Thank you, Ms. Garris. And our goal is, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a quick question about
Yes.
that? I think it would be helpful, is there any way that you, to the extent practical, that you could obtain examples of what this can do? For example, looking back at that classroom slide of all the desks and the reading levels, and it talks about, you don't have to change it, but it talks about the different individualized learning plans that it can create, worksheets for each individual student. It would be helpful to be able to see that, visualize what that would look like for a 4th grade student versus, somebody else in the same class at the 8th grade level, so that we could tangibly see that difference. I think it would help in a lot of people's minds to be able to kind of make it real versus just
help people understand.
yeah.
And there is, many of our teachers are using the free version right now. Just like anything, the paid version gives you many, many more tools. So honestly, anyone can go right now and look at the Magic School AI website, and you can create a free account and you can use and see some of those tools. And I can tell you many of our teachers have already done that. We vetted this last spring, so it became on our approved vetted resources list. And so even though at the time the district hadn't purchased it, that also told our teachers this is an approved site. And I know there were some training done, informal training probably more than anything, and it spreads among teachers. One teacher uses something and they really like it and they start talking. So, but anybody can go look at it. It's not closed because there is a free version.
Can I ask a question? Is this subject specific?
No, sir. And even, it can be, when we buy a district license, it can be used by support staff, it can be used by administrators. There are many things in here. I see instructional assistants could also do, we used to traditionally think the instructional assistants or our clerical staff made copies. And with this, they could really help the teacher by using this tool as well to create leveled text, as Mr. Scully used as an example. If the teacher gave the assistant a text, the instructional assistant could go and use this tool because it can change the text into a certain grade level, it can include certain vocabulary words, and so training instructional support staff to help, I think, is another key component here.
Yeah, sounds really good. I like Mr. Scully's suggestion. The practicality, the usage, maybe if Ms. McCaskill goes down and visits Horry County, if there's one of their or two of their teachers say, I'd love to sit down with your classroom teachers and show them how this is a helpful tool and not where they have to go back and re-examine data and go through all that process. So, thank you.
Are the children using their computers? Like, in other words, if a teacher uses this to create a test, do the students take their test in this same tool, or would they still take their test with pencil and paper?
They could do it however the teacher wants it to. There isn't a place in the tool where they would actually take the test, but the teacher might create it, and so they could take the digital test and maybe put it in Google Classroom or whatever they're using to typically do that. or they could print it out if they do paper pencil. So it's really the tool generator, not necessarily a platform. It's not a learning management system where the kids are logging in and the teachers are posting assignments in it. It's not that. It's really to create the content and the assignments.
One other question is, I actually use AI a lot, and I found sometimes it learns, because it learns, right? Sometimes it learns things that aren't true.
Yes.
Is that any concern with this?
Oh, absolutely. I think with any AI, that's something, and that's part of professional development. And Dr. Ross mentioned ethical use and moral, the moral value, I guess, of it. That's something that our adults and our students need to be very aware of. That it could spit out a so-called historical document that may not be correct. And so I think as we talk about AI, that's a really key component for our students going into the future, because this is just going to continue to develop, but our teachers too. So it would never replace a teacher, because once it creates, a teacher could have a test and maybe they have a student that has accommodations, instead of 4 answers, they only get 2 answers and that kind of thing. It could help with a lot of those tasks to be efficient. But to your point, the content is really important. Adults still have to know their content and know that it's accurate and it's reaching the goals and meeting the standards. This does align with state standards as well. You can enter your standards, and Tina, I don't want to get too far, you can step in, but it does align with state standards. So there's some pieces of that I think, again, is a huge help for teachers and keeps them focused on what they're teaching.
Ms. McCaskill, is there anything you want to add?
Jenny did a great job, but you're right. Whenever we come back after, we're meeting with Horry County next week, and I do hope to have some practical examples like you were talking about, Mr. Scully, to actually see what's going on in the schools, because they have been going and doing individual trainings at each school. This first year for them has been on a voluntary basis, which teachers want to use it. Those are the ones that they're spending the most time with, helping them, and so it's been on a voluntary basis. And then, of course, once somebody sees that something works, then the word spreads and another teacher wants it, that type thing. But I do want some hard examples of how the differentiation is taking place, because that is the one thing when I was on the phone with Horry County that they talked about how powerful that's been for teachers and the work that it saved them because of what they've used with Magic School. And so that's one of the requests that I have for them, is to bring some samples and show that. So I will have that and can bring it back.
We thank you for just kind of engaging in this conversation with us as we move forward. One of the things that we're looking for is that first bullet there, is to ensure that teachers and the staff and community understand that AI does not replace the teacher. This is a tool to help us differentiate. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna wait. Ms. McCaskill, so will this be voluntary for our teachers as well?
Yeah, so the first year will be voluntary. We will be incorporating professional development. We're revamping some things with our Lead D5 to allow for some a lot more choice in the sessions that they're going to be going to that will be aligned to PLCs, and they'll be able to go to sessions. And hopefully what will happen is, if I'm on a 4-member PLC team, then all 4 of us are going to go to lots of different sessions, and then that afternoon we're going to be able to come back and share what we find, and we'll share the information, and it'll begin to spread that way. But it will not be something that's mandated the first year for sure.
And then I know we're not, obviously not, it's a tool, we're not replacing teachers, but will it be targeted more for teachers who don't have teacher assistants, or will teachers that already have assistants at the younger levels still be able to use it?
It'll be for all teachers. I guess maybe I could use myself as an example. They gave me a 30-day free trial, and so I thought, I'm going to try this thing out, and I'm going to do some things with it. Well, I needed to write a video script, and I only had a little bit of time to do it. So I sat down with it, and it wrote a 2.5-minute video script for me in a matter of about 1.5 minutes. It spit it out, and it took me about 10 minutes to edit and correct it, and I had the video script ready to go. Something that I was dreading because I thought it was going to take me about an hour and a half to write. It took me about 2.5 minutes and then about 10 minutes to edit it. So I do think that it has lots of potential for all of our staff members. Of course, we want to target the differentiation and help with teachers with all of the various levels that they have in their classes, but all of our staff members will benefit from this greatly.
And the million-dollar question, how much does it cost?
So I'll answer that. We are now, but on our initial estimate is about $90,000 a year. This is but it'll be a recurring cost. And what I've justified to give 1,400 teachers an instructional assistant. Ms. Tucker will be a little bit more than that, of course, but so that's my justification, but that's a great question. Now, that is an initial quote. We would like the opportunity to just go back and see if there are any other plug-ins after visiting Ori, but that was the initial quote for full access. And that way, when I've created something, I can save it, I can keep it, I can share it, and it becomes work product of the district.
And this is a new budget line item, not replacing something that's already there. Okay.
And is that the cost, is it a blanket cost for that's the cost of the subscription district-wide, or is there a per-user charge?
It's based on the number of students in the district is the way that they give the rate, the quote.
Okay.
But we don't have to apply licenses, so it wouldn't be something, if we went over, we would then incur greater costs. It's for the year for the enterprise.
Okay, and that's why you say it'd be available to all teachers, because regardless of the number of teachers that use it, the cost remains the same.
Yeah, all staff, everybody.
And it will be available to students as well. So this would be it's a student and staff platform.
Everything sounds exciting. I would just say continue to lean on that first bullet, put strong guardrails just to protect our teachers so we don't turn into the grocery stores that went to self-checkout and we're, one teacher for 4 classrooms. We just want to save those jobs.
Well, and Dr. Ross, if I can add, one of the things in the technology world, when we talk about these things, free is never free. So even though there's the free version of this, we get a lot more for a paid version. But one of the things, we have a data privacy agreement directly with us, between us and the company, because we're doing the paid version. And so they do a lot more with us when you're paying. And I think that payment is worth peace of mind.
Well, you know what they say when it's free.
It's not free.
You are the product.
That's correct.
So we thinking we're going to continue the conversation. We did not want to come back from our meeting with Horry County and just you not have any foreknowledge of this. And so we look forward to continuing this discussion. As we talk with our administrators, Ms. Bain, that was the number one point, is that they were all go on the tool, but the lead is the teacher. And making sure that with any generative AI, it is as good as what it's learning. And so having the safeguards of that teacher is super important. It's all to, as we move from a mass education system to an individualized education system, and our parents are very clear, there were a myriad of different things that they wanted from School District 5. There was no one thing. But what everybody said is whatever you do, it needs to be for my child. That speaks differentiation. And a tool that will help us differentiate in this world is something that we want to make a priority. So we look forward to bringing more information on this matter. And so at this time, speaking of our children, our students, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Mike Harris, Chief of Student Services and Planning, for our Student Services and Planning report.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, members of the board, our general community. Tonight, we wanted to bring to you again an idea, an activity, an event that, quite frankly, is taking our district once again by storm. It is one that has generated a lot of interest, and we've asked Ms. Kelly Brown, who's our Director of Student Services, to come tonight and to share with you about this idea. She is the author, she is the creator, and the quite frankly, the playmaker of this activity and this event. So we're going to ask her at this time to come forward and to share with you once again the idea that's taken District 5 by storm.
I don't know if I can follow that up. Yeah, I know it. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Ross. Despite my first message about March being warmer weather, please do not look outside. It will dispute everything that I'm getting ready to talk about. But as we do know, typically, as we're getting ready to see later in the week, March will start a time of season for students that can be a little bit more challenging. It is warmer weather, we have spring sports, we have a little bit of senioritis coming up, and we're rounding the corner to fourth quarter, and we have a little bit of a long stretch before spring break. So you have all of that going on in the world of students, and we also want to continue to finish strong with what we are doing across the board with attendance. This is our second year doing attendance teams with the support and help of our attendance support, Ms. Allen and Ms. Reed. All of our school sites conduct attendance team meetings once a month, if not twice a month. In these attendance meetings, they are comprised of assistant principals, school counselors, our school nurse, social workers, and our attendance support ladies that come to meet and talk about not only school-wide incentives or school-wide campaigns that talk about what are we doing for the students that are continuously showing up, but also taking a minute to look at the data to look at what barriers or extenuating circumstances students may have that team can sit there and talk and navigate through how we can support each and every family to produce good attendance in the classroom. It really helps that initiative when you hear statistics like the number one indicator for a high school dropout is looking at student attendance. Or if you look at, on the other end, a student in kindergarten who is chronically absent has a 17% chance of reading on grade level by the time they are in third grade. So truancy is a term we're very familiar with. That's when a student is missing all day and all-day absences. But the new term in the attendance world is called chronic absenteeism. Chronic absenteeism charts when a student misses 50% or more of the school day, so if they're coming in late or if they're leaving early, or 10% of their enrollment period. And so when you look at what students are walking through and continuing our initiative with attendance teams, what we did last year is we started a March Madness attendance campaign across the district. And with all of those efforts, we ended the year by being the first district, we ranked first in the Midlands as the district with the lowest chronic absenteeism rate. So we wanted to take that and continue that on. And so during this month of March, we're starting our second district-wide March Madness attendance campaign. And that started last week. And we will measure chronic absenteeism rates for each school every Friday. We were able to pull that up, get live data. And the school that they're competing against that has the lowest chronic absenteeism rate will advance to the next round until they get to the championship round at the end of the month. But regardless of the progression of each school, we are asking schools to participate in things each week during the month of March. So week one, we gave every student in the district attendance pledge cards, and they had to identify who their attendance accountability buddy will be. Or if they were in the secondary schools, they had to identify who their administrator was, their school counselor was, things that they already know, but we want to make sure they can easily identify that areas of support as they're heading into this season. Week two, which is what we're in the middle of right now, we're having a district-wide Spirit Week. And so you will see students and faculty dressed and members in our district office dressed for our School Spirit Week, our District Spirit Week that is taking place this week. Next week, elementary schools will receive a read aloud about attendance and the value of it. It's a little character in the book who doesn't want to go to school, and it talks about meeting friends and learning new things. So elementary schools will receive that book, and secondary schools will receive a book about quotes and statistics to just inspire them as they move into the fourth quarter. And then, of course, as we get into the championship week, those remaining schools will get little attendance rally towels, and then it'll take us into the final round where the principals that remain for the championship will meet in a gym again, and it will determine who, once the winner is announced, what basketball they will receive. All the principals signed the basketball last week, and who will get on the ladder to cut the net down with all safety measures in place for that activity. What we're asking for families and schools are three things. One, just to continue the conversations of good attendance and finishing the year strong. We started out strong, we want to finish the year strong. Secondly, we want to continue to promote regular attendance guidelines and procedures. If your child is sick, we do not want you to feel pressured to come to school. We are not putting new expectations on students. We just want every student to follow the same attendance expectations and guidelines. And three, to have fun with this challenge. We are getting ready to walk into final exams and SAT and ACT and all of that kind of testing, and so we want them to have fun as they are preparing for their final showcase of all that they have learned. While they are having fun, I will tell you at the end of week 1, we had 17 schools decrease their chronic absenteeism rate last week. 4 of the schools remained the same, and the final 3, because we include the Academy for Success in that count, the 3 that shifted a little bit, shifted within less than 1 percentage point. And so our schools are doing wonderful work as we start this campaign. District-wide, right now, we are about 13% of a chronic absenteeism rate. To put that in perspective, last year we were at 17%. The state average is around 20%, and the national average is around 25-26%. So as of last week, we were at 13.1% as a district. So I have to commend our attendance support, our attendance teams for the work that they are doing. So I look forward to tracking our attendance during the month of March, see who our champions will be, and celebrate the work that all of our schools are doing.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Mr. Scully?
Who's the defending champ? Who are we chasing?
You are chasing Lake Murray Elementary School. They have about a 4%. Last year, they had about a 4.9% chronic absenteeism rate.
Okay. All right,
But they are-
everybody. You heard it. That's the hunt.
That's it.
We got to go get them.
Ms. Huddle?
What is maybe the top 1 to 3 reasons that you see causes it? I know it's different with every child, but I'm kind of curious, what are the big causes?
One of the main things that we are seeing, especially one target area, is our young learners. And the big shift with our kindergarten and first grade students is building those healthy attendance habits. Setting the routines of put the book bag, setting the clothes out, attendance is a priority every single day. One of the things that we're having with conversations with families is turning those days into hours and into minutes, that when students are leaving early or coming in late, this is the amount of instruction that they are missing. So one of the things we want to continue to really support our young learners. And then I think also, too, it's a matter of making sure that they are supported academically. When students are missing, as I told a student earlier today, when you're missing school, you're missing instruction. And when you're missing instruction, it's hard to be successful in the classroom. And so if we can get them in the classroom, then we can get them that quality instruction. And so I think for the older students, is really getting them to see the value of connecting attending school and learning, and the academic success in the classroom. And then for our young learners, is establishing those good habits.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for that again. And we wanted to just talk just very briefly about probably less of a update in terms of our. Here we go. Less of an update and more of a thank you. We have not one of, but the finest safety team in all of the state of South Carolina, and I would venture to say even abroad. We have 4 safety officers who are former law enforcement officers, either from Lexington County and or Richland County. And as you may be aware, if not, certainly be reminded that we do have a safety officer who is responsible for the Chapin area, one who's responsible for the Dutch Fork area, one for the Irmo, and then we also have, in the second year, a lead safety officer who happens to be standing behind me right now, Officer Ross Wise. The four of them have take our safety and our security measures, and they lead our district throughout every day. From north to south, east to west, this is what they are doing to ensure that safety for all our students and our staff, our volunteers, and persons who are on our campuses are indeed safe. And one of the things that has helped us, and why we wanted to say thank you, is what you see there in the picture above. And it's in reference to new vehicles that we've been able to secure. They've been able to get around instead of doubling up in one vehicle. We've had vehicles that were using cords and bungee cords to keep the doors from opening while they were riding down the road. We've had water jugs and jumper cables and you name it, just to kind of make sure that we're responding to incidents that occur here in the district. But this has certainly helped us, so we wanted to say thank you for that, and that all four of those are active and duly active, and just wanted to simply say thank you for that. I think basically the punchline I wanted to share with you on tonight is that rather than an update sharing about all the different various and sundry things that we're doing by way of safety, we wanted to invite you, all 7 of you, if you're certainly available, on March the 26th at the district office boardroom at about 8 o'clock a.m. We wanted to invite you to what is referred to as our Superintendent's Emergency Responders Advisory Group. And what that is an opportunity where we could bring all of our various law enforcement, SLED, Lexington County, Richland County, EMS, emergency management, our National Weather Service, Highway Patrol, DOT, different and various organizations come together and we brainstorm, we work together, we roundtable for an hour, hour and a half or so based on various topics. And we wanted to invite you to that so that we can try to share with you and include you in some of those conversations. And certainly if you have specific questions about something, that would be an opportune time in which to address those. So that's going to be on Wednesday, March 26th at our district office boardroom. And again, we just simply want to say thank you for what you do to support this safety team. We have one of our personnel lead who is here tonight, and just want to simply share that with you on tonight. And certainly if there's specific questions that are pressing right now, we're trying to respond to those. But more specifically, we wanted to kind of share with you again that district office meeting on the 26th of March.
Do we have any safety-related questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there we go.
I want to thank you, Dr. Harris, and Student Services and Planning for that update. I try to wear my neon bow tie in recognition of our March Madness campaign. So again, it's good fun, but it's a great way to teach about attendance and the importance of it in instructional time. Madam Chair, that is our D5 story, and we stand for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Bainum?
Dr. Ross, do we have a lead? I've had questions from the community on a high school attendance zone map. Is that like 2026? Will we be looking at?
So the only 1% of the high school
Rezoning, as far as, I'm sorry.
was rezoned, so those are pretty standard, but Dr. Harris, if you want to speak to that.
I mean, that's essentially the response to the question. The very minimal amount of high school students will be adjusted or rezoned, if at all.
Okay, so whatever the current lines are, generally speaking, they're going to stay mostly intact.
That's correct. If you look at the elementary school zones and then follow the chart up, that will do that. But one of the things Dr. Harris has made available, and it's on our website, any parent, and we can get that link out again, that wants to know where they would be based on residence. Now, again, we have choice, but based on residence, you can put your address into the system, and it will show you where you are now, and we'll also show you where you are on when the rezoning happens. So you can see how that impacts you.
Yeah, I had two questions also related to the rezoning. One is, you mentioned the enrollment, and I was wondering, are we using a company like McMillan Paston, or are we kind of doing that our own based on the existing enrollment? And then the other question, and I hate to even bring this up, but stuff happens. What if a building's not ready in time?
I'll handle the second one first. If the building's not ready, we are working on contingencies. One of the contingencies is, you'll see the item that we're going to bring before you is the ERMO project first. By completing ERMO, essentially you get a swing building of the old building. If one is not done on time, that gives us some options. Specifically in the Duck Fork area, so we're working on that contingency. Our goal is to complete Irmo High School, and we would have, I don't know the exact square footage that would be available, but you would have that whole old east wing in the event that we don't make it. So those are the contingencies that we're looking at right now. In terms of the first question, that was, I'm sorry.
For the enrollment statistics.
Enrollment statistics. That's all the offices of Dr. Harris, but I'll let him tell how they came up with those.
Sure, it's really based on the students that we have currently, and it's really a roll-up like what we've typically done in previous years. It's a roll-up from one year to the next year, and it is inclusive of those students who are currently choiced to whatever the school in which they've chosen into. So that's basically a roll-up from one year to the next.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ross and staff.